One of the largest fortunes in the history of technology was built on a document a giant corporation published for free, and then was far too afraid to actually use. I want to tell you how the language quietly running behind almost every app on your phone was something its inventor's own employer was nervous to sell. This is the story of the relational database, and it is the most expensive case of cold feet I know. Our inventor is a British mathematician named Edgar Codd. Everybody called him Ted. He worked at IBM, and in 1970 he published a paper with a title only a researcher could love: A Relational Model of Data for Large Shared Data Banks. Behind that dry name was a genuinely radical idea. Back then, data lived in rigid hierarchies and tangled webs of pointers. If you wanted an answer, a programmer had to know exactly where every byte was stored and write code to walk through it by hand. Change the structure, and every program that touched it could break. Codd looked at that mess and proposed something almost insultingly simple. What if data just lived in tables, rows and columns, the kind of grid a child could read? And what if you could ask questions of those tables using plain logic, without caring how the bytes were arranged underneath or where they sat on the disk? He gave it a real mathematical foundation, built on set theory, so the answers were not just convenient, they were probably correct. It was beautiful. It was also a direct threat to IBM, because IBM already sold a database. It was called IMS. It was one of those rigid hierarchical systems, and it made a fortune. Codd was essentially telling his own company that its cash machine was built on the wrong idea. So IBM did what comfortable giants do. It hesitated, it studied, it formed committees, it let Codd present, then kept selling the old product to the customers who were already paying. Accounts from that era describe a brilliant researcher fighting his own employer for years just to get his best idea taken seriously. Imagine handing your boss the future and watching the company file it under maybe later. Eventually, IBM did build a research project around it called System R. A team including Donald Chamberlain and Raymond Boyce created a query language for it. They first called it SQL, then trimmed the name to SQL. That is where the language came from. The catch is that IBM treated System R as research, not as a product it was in any hurry to ship. Now here is where the irony arrives. The papers were public, anyone could read them, and someone did. A young, relentless salesman named Larry Ellison read IBM's own published research on the relational model and SQL, and he saw what IBM refused to see: that this was the future and that the door was wide open. IBM had told the whole industry how to build the thing and then declined to build it first. So Ellison and his co-founders did. They shipped a commercial relational database, and they cheekily named the first release Oracle version 2 because no one trusts a version 1. By most accounts, that arrived around 1979. IBM, the company that invented the idea, did not ship its own relational products until the early 1980s. SQLDS came around 1981, DB2 around 1983. By the time the giant finally moved, the outsider had a running start, a product, and a hunger IBM had spent years suppressing. And here is my thesis. This is not a story about theft. Ellison stole nothing. The blueprints were lying in the open because IBM itself printed them. This is a story about the brutal cost of publishing your breakthrough while refusing to ship it. If you announce the future and then sit on it to protect your present, you are not protecting anything. You are handing your competitors a finished map. There is one last twist, and it stings. Ted Codd, the purist, later argued that SQL had drifted from his clean mathematical model, that the industry had embraced a messier, more practical version of his idea. He was probably right, and it did not matter at all. The correct idea lost to the good enough idea again, the same way it almost always does. The world does not run on the most elegant model. It runs on the one that shipped, the one people could actually buy and use. Code got the Turing Award. Ellison got the Empire. So before you close this tab, run the one query that keeps this table growing. Select subscribe from this channel, where you want more origins like this one. Hit the like button to commit the transaction, and I will see you in the very next row.